Volcanoes and Two Left Feet, Episode 10. We got up at 11:30 in Milan at night to get into a van and go on a trip that was across some of the most rugged terrain that I think I have ever been over in my life, much less in a car. The actual trip from Milan to Bromo took about 2.5 hours, and that was to drive 40 miles up and down basically jungle roads in a Sprinter van. I am amazed that it even made it on these roads. When we got there, we couldn't even go in the Sprinter van to the final bit. We had to get set up with some Jeeps to load the family into. We actually got 2 Jeeps, one for the Bradfords and one for the Luceros, and we're let off to do the final hike up to the final sunset section. For Malaysia, this was freezing weather, and we've been warned multiple times by different people that this was going to be some of the coldest area we would ever have been in our life. At the top of the hill, we went into a bunch of little places that were selling coffee and were being powered by a generator. As we were going along, we kept on being pestered by people asking us to buy hats and blankets and coats, and looking around, it seemed like there were a lot of people who were taking them up on it. Mike made sure that he was warm as well.
Mike, do you want a couple more layers? Okay, just checking for you, big guy.
At the top, it was pitch black. I actually had to use a flashlight to find our way up to the top. And using the camera, I was able to get a couple of really good images of the mountain in the distance. The sunset slowly started to come up. We were there early, about an hour and a half. And the longer we were there, the more people showed up. It was something like a rave, something like a party. There were people posing, there were people cutting in front of each other. There was lots of smoking, and there was a beautiful sunset coming up. In fact, even looking down, it was pretty impressive. And as the sun rose, we were able to start seeing our first sights of Bromo. Yep, that is an active volcano. You can see the sulfur coming out of the top of it. I have to say, it is probably one of the most photogenic mountains that I have ever had the opportunity to take some pictures of. Every single shot seemed to turn out really well. And a little bit of a selfie too. After the sunrise, we walked down through the village. This village seems to be there pretty much only for this sunset rise. We came back there later, the entire place had been boarded up in the afternoon. Pretty much this entire thing is right on the top of a ridge crest that if you go anywhere else, you'd basically have a straight down drop on the back of these shops. So it's interesting to see how the architecture springs up here. After that, we got into our Jeeps. Looked like they were Toyota Land Cruisers. Piled in. We basically had to snuggle up 4 into the back of a small area. Some people decided they didn't want to actually snuggle up and just rode on the top. And went down what would consider nowadays to be basically a bicycle trail. I think the bicycle trail that I commute on around the town is wider than this. And this is 2 lanes of traffic, sometimes 3. At the end, we came out on this basically a sand plateau, and the only thing I can really say that reminds me of was like a Mad Max movie. There were literally hundreds and hundreds of Toyota Land Cruisers throughout this entire area, just shooting from one end to the other. And once again, no traffic concepts at all. People would just zoom right back to each other on the left or the right. It didn't really matter. And our second stop was, I don't really know, it was a beautiful sight, but it seemed to be just kind of a small little toilet and snack shops set up around here. You can hear the ice cream trucks in the back. There were two of them. They were playing the same song at slightly different times. They had some horse rides for the kids, which we didn't do it, and for some reason, Teletubbies, which still makes us kind of confused. I guess Green Hills mean Teletubby land. We found a rainbow the cousins posed in front of. And then our third stop was basically a shot to run around in the sand a little bit more. Zephaniah was moving pretty much the entire day. This kid, I have to say, was a trooper. I heard so few complaints from him, and he always had an incredibly positive attitude. He just liked hanging out, eating some chocolate-filled dumplings, being a cool guy, and the most amazing thing was he was wearing two left shoes, with one being twice the size as the other the entire day. And he walked all the way up there as fast as we did. To get to the top of the crater, we had to walk across the sand, and then from there go up this flight of stairs. And at the top, we got to see an active volcano, which, no lava, but a lot of smoke and a lot of sulfur coming out. It's basically erupted twice in the past 20 years, and the images really couldn't do it justice of seeing down inside of it, but you could see a lot of stuff just kind of boiling and popping around in there. And there were some people who were deciding that they wanted to do a walk along the edge of the crater. If you look at it, this place is not really OSHA compliant by any stretch of the imagination. I was even nervous a little bit myself, and I don't have that big of a problem with heights. So we kept the kids close to us and looking from a distance as we went along. Basically, they say that every year or so, 2 or 3 people end up dying just because they fall off the edge. Elijah was telling me that there is a belief that if you're able to get down to the crater and bring back some sort of treasure or some sort of offering, then you'll have good luck. I think you have to be pretty far down on your luck in the first place to even have to go in that direction. At the top, there was this cool little Hindu shrine where people had brought offerings up and left them there. Nice little backdrop for the volcano. And then it was back down the flight of stairs, 144 steps. If you didn't want to walk, you could get these little ponies that were around here. And on our drive back, we got to see some monkeys. Once we got out of the Jeeps, we got back into the Sprinter, did our 2.5-hour drive back to Malong, and took a long needed rest.